What's up, Detroit? This is the Riles and Riley Rundown, back for another Lions pregame. All right, Week 8 is coming up. If there was a must-win this season that we've been talking about all year, it's definitely this one.
Oh, I mean, we've been saying that a lot, but you know what? It's going to be that way the rest of the way, honestly.
Yeah.
Because realistically, you still can make the playoffs with 10 wins, which means you have 2 more losses the rest of the year you can deal with.
Yeah.
So basically, every game from now on will be a must-win. I'm not even going to talk about the playoff implications unless they start getting things going.
Yeah. If you don't win this game, you might as well just throw out.
You may as well start tanking.
Yeah, because we've been saying this is a for sure win pretty much the entire time. Although Seattle has
looked actually, they've got a winning record.
Yeah, their defense is definitely saving them, which is scary.
Speaking of the defense, I have a lot to get on that later. But since we usually start off with the 3 main things, we'll do that again this week. I think you can go first. I think I usually go first, so you can do your first point.
All right, my first one, as always, I've said this like the past 3 weeks, win the turnover battle.
Still, I think you've said that ever since the St. Louis game.
Yeah, and funny that we haven't done it yet, and we've yet to win a game since I've started saying that, besides the Philadelphia game.
And
we won.
I think we did win the turnover battle. I think we had 1 and they had like 2 or 3.
Right.
I don't remember the exact numbers, but I do believe we did.
Again, I say win the turnover battle, and guess what? We'll probably win the game.
Yep, I do agree that 90% of the time you win the turnover battle. As long as it's a close matchup, which unfortunately we shouldn't be saying this, but I think this is a close matchup. When it's a close matchup, the turnover battle is huge.
Well,
Go ahead.
It's just the fact that, yes, I sound like a broken record every week when I'm saying that, but it's true. I mean, when this team can get the big plays from like a Dalmas or a Sue, if he can force a fumble or something like that, it's a completely different team because it gets everybody going. But especially at home, because you've got a rookie quarterback on the other side now. So
we mentioned before that it was going to be tough for the Lions coming back home, and I think it's going to be the same this again. I think they're going to need to bring the crowd into it rather than just have them there. Yeah. But my number one key to this game is it's similar to yours in that I've been saying it week after week now for about 3-4 weeks. Score when you get to the red zone. And I don't mean score field goals.
Yep.
Score touchdowns.
Yep.
Seattle's defense is only allowing 15.1 points per game. For a team that struggled to score this year in the Lions, that is very scary. Mm-hmm. You need to score when you get to the red zone. Seattle does have a tough defense, but and they're a physical defense too. But you gotta score when you get there, especially with the potent offense that we should have.
Yeah. My second key is it's going to go to you fans. We're going to go crowd factor for the Lions. Wow. You've got Russell Wilson as a starting quarterback in the NFL, rookie. I don't think he's played in a more hostile environment yet.
If they weren't 2-4 right now, I would completely agree. And I'm not saying it can't be that way. I do think the Lions can get their fans into the game, but I think they need to bring them into the game.
Exactly. Yeah, it's actually a challenge to the Lions and to you fans. If big plays happen, don't think about what's happened in the past. Go with what this game's going with. I mean, like Brendan said, the playoffs are definitely looking impossible right now. But
technically, you can still do it, but you can't. You have no margin for error.
Exactly.
Because there are a few games you just know you're
Well, if you look at it, last year you started out 6-0. If the Lions can put together a 6-0 record here in the next 6 weeks, it's a completely different season all of a sudden.
Right.
I mean, this team is capable of getting some big chunks. Right now, honestly, the Lions and Tigers regular season so far has been a lot similar to each other.
The next couple weeks are doable weeks, too. Yeah. Where do we go after Seattle? Do you know? We'll check that out later, but I'll go on to my second point. Tom, if you want to pull that up, I mentioned my second point. Yeah. My second point is similar to your first one. Oh, real quick, actually, before I go to my second point, I did want to point out the Seahawks are 1-3 on the road and 3-0 at home.
We go to Jacksonville after Seattle.
Yeah, so these are both winnable games. But so it is definitely possible that you can get to the Seahawks because you got a home field advantage. Young quarterbacks do tend to struggle with it more. But anyways, my second point is hold on to the football. Again, something I mentioned in Chicago, and again, something that's been a problem all year long. Fumbles haven't been the same problem all year long that they were last week, but drops are. You hold on to the football. If we stopped having all these drops, I do believe Matt Stafford's completion percentage, that's currently at 62%, would at least be above 65, approaching 70.
Yeah.
His yards would probably be higher. He'd have at least 3-4 more touchdowns. Hold on to the football. When you have the ball in 2 hands, especially when your name is Calvin Johnson, which I'm not trying to call him out, but you do need to make those catches.
Yep.
I mean, it's awfully hard to score when you drop the good passes you get. because even the best quarterbacks in the league are going to get rattled when they're getting hit, which Stafford does, and their receivers aren't holding on to the football.
Yeah, I just looked ahead in their schedule. I mean, it's very optimistic that you make the playoffs. If you want to make the playoffs, you have to either beat 2 times, or you have to have 2 wins out of these games. At Detroit versus Chicago, at Detroit versus Atlanta, at Green Bay.
I forgot Atlanta.
Yeah, at Green Bay, at Houston, versus Houston on Thanksgiving in Detroit.
You need to win 3.
Yeah.
You need, between the 2 Green Bay games, the Atlanta game, the Houston game, and the Chicago game, you need to win 3 of those.
Yeah. Well,
and you have to win every other game.
Yeah.
But okay, getting back to the points.
My third point is going to be on Matthew Stafford. I mean, yes, he hasn't looked horrible throughout the season. He hasn't looked great throughout the season. This is a game, honestly. Everybody's kind of looked past you now. You're not really in that conversation for elite quarterback this season anymore, just because you haven't looked the way everybody expected you to.
When you're 6 games in and you still have a touchdown interception ratio where your interceptions are higher.
Yeah.
I mean, even though the interceptions are manageable, 1 a game is about where he's at. The touchdowns are ridiculous.
Yeah. My biggest point
he's the only starting quarterback who hasn't thrown a touchdown in the first 3 quarters. The only one who hasn't thrown in the first half. But sorry, go ahead.
Honestly, the next 4 weeks are 4 weeks that you could do some damage. I mean, Seattle's pretty much your toughest team as far as secondary is going to go. I mean, you have Seattle, who's got a really good defense. Jacksonville, you should blow up. Minnesota, honestly, you're probably capable of blowing up.
You're absolutely capable of it.
Green Bay, you should blow up. I mean, their defense is not that great.
You mean offensively?
Yeah, exactly.
I thought you meant like you should destroy these teams.
No, I'm saying you should blow up the scoreboard on Green Bay, though. I mean, Green Bay has no secondary
and
at
that
all.
game's going to be
Plus,
at home, I believe, right?
And Woodson's out.
And if you can rattle off some wins, then you'll let the crowd back into it. But again, try not to look ahead too much, as this team is still 4-5 wins probably away from really talking about it.
Yep.
My third key is to handle their running game. You don't need to stop their running game, but they average 162 yards a game in the air. I don't know where that ranks in the NFL, but I can take a pretty good guess that it's very, very low.
Yeah.
I mean, 160 yards a game in the air. They only average a team total 294 yards. For a defense that's looked pretty good this year, I mean, if you can handle their running game, you're going to keep the score low. And yes, they want the score to be low. But I don't see any reason we can't keep their score low and bring in our own points. So yeah, my third key for the defense is to handle the running game. Because Russell Wilson, he's a very, very good game manager, but he won't beat you. He'll let his team beat you.
I'm actually going to throw out a little bonus point here. Throughout the week, I've actually been noticing local radio stations and stuff on Facebook posting, should the Lions draft another wide receiver or trade for another wide receiver?
Is that a joke?
Now that Nate Burleson is out. Last time I checked, Ryan Broyles stepped up in the Monday night game.
I haven't heard that anyone suggested that, but anyone who suggested that's crazy.
If you go on Facebook right now on 97.1's Facebook page, you will see that they asked the question, should we trade for another wide receiver? I believe it was yesterday or Tuesday maybe, because it was right after the game. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. You've got Ryan Broyles, who you just drafted for this exact reason, because you knew Nate Burleson was going to be gone probably in the next few years. And now all of a sudden you're thinking about drafting another one and or trading for one? That's just stupid. Ryan Broyles didn't look that bad on Monday night. He actually looked really good. He was one of the only guys who didn't drop a pass on Monday night.
No, I wouldn't even think about going after a wide receiver at all. You drafted Ryan Broyles to be your third receiver. Yep. So no, I don't even want to take that seriously. If the Lions go out and try and get a receiver, I mean, it better be for free.
Exactly. That's exactly what I think.
But some more. Let's talk a little bit more about this game. We have talked about the fact that they're. I want to take a look at the fact that it's a home game. We'll have a lot of those the rest of the way, which is nice.
Yep.
Of course, like we said, we're going to try not to look at the playoffs too much, but it is nice to have a bunch of home games at the end of the season. It does give you an opportunity to take advantage of that home field advantage. And most of those tough games that you were naming that you have to win later on are home games.
Yep. The only one that's not a home game is the. Help me out here. I believe it's the.
Houston's at home, Atlanta's at home, Green Bay's on the road.
The Green Bay road.
The one Green Bay road game, which is.
And I mean, Arizona right now it's not looking like it's going to be a tough game. But I mean,
They're starting to head downhill a little bit.
Yeah.
I still think they're a legitimate team.
Yeah.
But you gotta start with winning now and winning next week. I think I've said it on here. I may not have, that staying around 500 does always give you a chance.
Yep. Yeah, I completely agree. I feel like right now in the season, you basically have to look at this as a lost season right now.
Yeah.
I said
in the post game that the biggest thing for me to focus on is improvements.
Can you get it back on track? Definitely. But I don't know if you... Right now, I wouldn't even focus on the playoffs if I'm the Lions. Focus one game at a time and just try to get this team back to 8-8. I mean, I would like... If this team finished 8-8, I honestly would not be that...
No. I said 7-9. Anything less than 7-9, I'm upset about.
Yeah, definitely.
But one thing I want to see in this game that we've talked about now week after week after week, where is Kevin Smith?
Yep.
I don't get it. He still is the leading. He's still the leading yards per carry and the leading touchdowns out of everybody on the team, not named Matthew Stafford.
I think Joik Bell killed him. I'm throwing it out there.
Joik Bell's numbers aren't any better than his, though. That's
but I think Joik Bell killed him because Joik Bell's getting more playing time than him right now, and Joik Bell looks like garbage so far. I mean,
Joik Bell doesn't look like garbage, but
he's had 2 touchdowns.
He's not the number 2 running back.
Yeah, he's had 2 touchdowns, and I think he's got like 12 yards on the season. Go look at that real quick.
Oh no, he has more than 12 yards in the season. I can guarantee that. I like Joik Bell as a piece of the offense, but he should be your third running back. Are you checking it, or did you want me to check it?
He's got 23 carries for 91 yards.
But look at his receiving yardage. That's part of his game.
His receiving yardage is 16 receptions for 194 yards.
So
definitely.
Between the two, he's...
But let's go to Kevin Smith real quick. Joik Bell, I said 23 for 91. Kevin Smith, 29 for 115. Problem is,
what is the yards per carry for Joik Bell? They're pretty close. So it's exactly the same as Kevin Smith.
Exactly. However, Kevin Smith's only had to play in 2 games. Joik Bell's been playing the entire season now, which is getting on my nerves. Throughout the entire season now, Joik Bell has 1 touchdown, or Mikel LaShore has 1 touchdown, and Kevin Smith has 1 touchdown. Stafford is leading
Kevin Smith
the
has
team.
1 receiving as well.
Yeah, Matthew Stafford is leading the team in rushing touchdowns. So
really, with how many?
2. So
wow,
that's not that. Yeah, this. I mean, I said it from the beginning of the season. Actually, I was talking to people. I think that not having a fullback is really hurting this team in a way. I mean, to not have the guy who can pound it in the middle, or when you get down the line.
I wouldn't mind a fullback because of the fact. You know what? I again, things that we've said a lot. Mikel LaShore's a big guy. Why are we not using him in the tight situations
exactly.
like on the goal line?
Yep.
I mean, we're consistently going to Joik Bell there. We're not staying on topic of this game very well because, to be honest, I think we're both getting kind of frustrated of consistently saying the same things every single week. I mean, where's Kevin Smith? Why can't we catch the football? Why are we not scoring when we get into the red zone?
Basically, it's the reason why we're getting so frustrated with it is we are throwing out points that are valid points and wanting to see it on the field because we are football fans and we are Detroit Lion fans. As Detroit Lion fans, you should want to see Kevin Smith out in the field if he's going to be better than Mikel LaShore and Joik Bell. I don't think he's going to be better than Mikel LaShore. I think Mikel LaShore
I think Mikel LaShore is the number 1.
Exactly. However, Kevin Smith can be... I mean, honestly, when you look, they're not going to be as good as Arian Foster, Ben Tate, but they should be splitting the carries like Arian Foster and Ben Tate. Not saying that Mikel LaShore is ever going to live up to the Arian Foster dominance, but... I'm just saying you need to take something from the Texans and look. I mean, a lot of teams have 2 running backs on their team on their team now. The problem is the Lions don't know how to use the 2 running back the system.
No, and it's been brought up to my attention by some people, and I kind of wondered about it myself that he may be hurt because he has had injuries throughout his entire career, and the Lions do like to hide injuries. If that's what it is, although it's a good thing, I guess that's all it is. It's pretty frustrating.
Yep.
I mean, I just searched, is Kevin Smith hurt? Can't find anything. I mean...
No, it's honestly like if you would type into the roster page of the Lions and type in Kevin Smith, it would just be cannot find or cannot match this or name to the team.
This is just actually a quote from Kevin Smith after Week 6. I'm never surprised. It is what it is. I really don't think it has anything to do... I really don't have any answers, so I don't know. He's I'm sorry, but that wasn't the one I was looking for. If you ask me, it has nothing to do with my production. Obviously, I'm healthy. I'm 100% healthy. Dating back to when I came back at the last part of the season. You can look at the numbers, touchdowns, whatever. I don't think it has anything to do with that. Like I said, the coaches, they call the shots, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I always look at it like, man, You always take a positive out of a negative. My time will come. According to Smith, he has no idea. And that is even more worrisome, actually. That's as of 10-16. So that was before Monday night. But he says he's perfectly healthy. He doesn't understand why he's not playing, and neither do I.
Yep. I think in this situation you have to look at it as if this team's 7-0 with Joik Bell and McEllisher playing the running back 1-2, that's a whole different story. You are 2-4, 2-5 right now.
And with Kevin Smith as a starter, you're 1-1.
Yeah, exactly. But just with 2 wins on the season, I don't think it's time to keep going with the same exact thing. I think it's time to switch it up a little bit. I mean, throw Kevin Smith in there and 3rd and 2 and see what he can do. I mean, Kevin Smith's one of those guys.
He's a great third down. Even if you only use him as a third down back, there are running backs in the league who are third down backs because they're great catching the ball.
Kevin Smith's one of those guys who on 3rd and 2 can bust one out for like 25, 30 yards. He's
more of a pass catching back who can run the ball.
Definitely.
But third, I would like to see him more 3rd and 2. You want to have a short in there because I don't have a problem with Kevin Smith in there. Kevin Smith to me is when you start getting those 3rd and 5 and longer when it does look like a passing down. I don't know why he's not in there. Instead, we put Joik Bell, who's slower. He does catch the ball, and he does make stuff happen in space. But so does Kevin Smith.
One of my biggest worries here, I mean, I don't know how you feel about this, but look at, I don't know if you're on ESPN right now. If you go to ESPN and look at the receiver rating or receiver stats, receptions for Calvin Johnson, 38. Targets, 66. Receptions for Brandon or Pettigrew, 31. Targeted, 48 times. Nate Burleson, 27, 43. That shows that half the time when they're being targeted, they're not catching the ball, which isn't a big deal because, I mean, a lot of that is Stafford throwing the ball away and it's where he's throwing.
It's both bad passes and
drop balls.
And drop balls. And unfortunately, it's impossible to find drops stats.
Yeah.
I mean, they tell you when you watch the game on TV, they've said many times the Lions lead the league in drops.
Yeah.
But
however, when you look at that, the reception to target ratio, when your entire team is almost half of everything, I mean, if you look down that stat line, pretty much every single player is half or more than half of receptions to target. I mean, you've got 17 of 29, 16 of 22, which isn't bad for Joik Bell, 27 of 43, 38 of 66, 31 of 48. That's almost half the time you're missing.
No, and I've been saying, that's what I said, you got to catch the football. And I've noticed that as a major problem all year. Another interesting point also pointed out to me on ESPN is that the Lions have a league-leading 5 giveaways inside the 20-yard line.
Yep.
They had 3 last season.
Yep.
5 this year. That also contributes to not scoring touchdowns. I mean, I don't understand it. We can't do the simple parts of the game.
Yep.
This team is so close, and I don't understand how people say they're not. I don't. I mean, you got the talent. Explain to me where the talent is at. And here's my favorite part. When people talk about how this team doesn't have talent, what do they say? Oh, you don't have corners. You don't have safeties. You don't have enough linebackers.
Yep.
Your defensive line isn't playing well enough. Well, 2 weeks in a row, the defensive line has played well enough.
Yep.
I expect them to do well this week as well.
You just held the Bears to 13 points on Monday Night Football. I mean, yes, the Bears don't have a potent defense. However, they do have one of the best running backs.
Well, actually, they had one of the... You mean potent offense. They have one of those potent defenses in the NFL right now.
Exactly.
Their defense probably averages as many points a game as their offense.
I meant I said hold 13 points. I meant offense. You've got Jay Cutler who can break out into big games, and honestly, if
they're a better offense than what they showed. The defense is doing fine. So that tells me one thing, and I don't think the defense is elite. I don't. They've played a very good season so far.
Yep.
But with what you're getting from your defense and the talent, that's what I don't understand. They have the talent on offense, and the defense is doing good enough. You don't need your defense. You shouldn't need your defense to hold them to 20 points a game, which actually is what they're doing. Only 25 points allowed a game.
Yep.
They shouldn't need to do more than that. I mean, do you know what I'm saying? How often do people who tell you that this team isn't good tell you it's because they don't have enough talent on offense?
Yep.
Nobody says that.
Nope. And it's this team is just frustrating in general. I mean, there's not much good to say about the season so far, minus the fact that we can always just hope for the best, I guess. You do still have Matthew Stafford. You still do have Calvin Johnson. You do still have...
Luckily, you have youth there, too. So
exactly.
You can afford... you obviously never want one, but you can afford a wasted season.
Right. I think everybody's just panicking right now because Detroit always does this. Coming off of a season where you went to the playoffs, you automatically expect Super Bowl the next season. Just like if the Tigers lose the World Series, everybody's going to panic and think the world's going to end because we're never going to make the playoffs again, even though our team's going to be just as good next year. I mean, Detroit fans are probably some of the most loyal fans in the world, but also some of the most dumbest.
See, people
fans
call that
in
out
the
all the
world.
time. I think it's hard to call that out because we don't live in other cities.
Sure.
I know you were born in another city, but what kind of sports teams did you have there?
In Kentucky, absolutely none.
I do think it's pretty normal. 97-1, I believe it's Vellani and Foster who talk about it, that really were actually a perfect medium. Because you have places like New York, who a guy goes 0 for 3 and he should be fired.
Yep.
But you have other places who...
Here's a pretty good stat for you guys for this defense. For tackles for yards lost, the Lions are in the top 10. For sacks, the Lions are in the top 12. For, let's see here, interceptions, we are in the bottom 3. So that tells me that, if we win the turnover battle, let's look up at the top. Leading the way is Chicago, great team. New York, great team. Atlanta, great team. Cleveland, surprisingly, so not a great team.
That's just a great team.
So Green Bay, though, Houston, all of those teams are in the top.
But you know what? You said Cleveland was up there, and I'm gonna guess their own turnovers are probably pretty high as well.
Oh, definitely. I would. Yeah.
So it's not just about how many turnovers you create, but how many.
Exactly, but I'm just getting at the people who are making fun of the defense and saying that the defense is the reason why we're not winning. We're leading. We're not leading, but we're in the top 10 of almost every single category in defense. Touchdowns. Oh, touchdowns. We're at 0, obviously, but that's half the league, so you can't really go with that. Forced fumbles. We are in the bottom 10, so that's obviously.
Those are all turnover numbers, though. But when you look at yardage and points, they're doing a great job. And really, in the end, all that matters is those points.
Yeah.
And they've been put in tough situations. We're routinely giving the other team the ball.
Defense had one game where they blew up, and it wasn't even the defense. It was the special teams. That was Tennessee when we gave up like 40 points. And that was not defense. That was all special teams.
Through that Tennessee game, we had given up as many special teams touchdowns, special teams and offensive touchdowns as defensive touchdowns. But I think for the most part, really, we've covered this game as much as we could.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot more to talk about. It's the same things week after week after week.
Yep.
Hopefully we can say something else on the post game. Hopefully we can say, hey, we actually did something right.
Hopefully by the post game, the Tigers are up 3-1 in the series too. But didn't start off too well last night. But for Brendan Riley, this is Tommy Riles. And thanks for listening to the Riles and Riley rundown, and have a great week.